Welcome to the Innovation Squadcast. If you're looking for a podcast about instructional strategies enhanced by technology, you came to the right place. In our conversations, we'll talk to tech experts, share ideas and strategies to help you build your toolbox with tools that you can use in your class immediately.
All right, welcome to this week's Squadcast podcast. My name is Phil Sheridan.
I'm Jimmy Kate.
And this week we're going to talk about, I think we've titled it Simplified Innovation. And it's really, we're going to talk a little bit back and forth about how we can work with students to help just kind of simplify their approach and talk about some of the strategies that we can, that are important students know how to use when trying to solve problems and ultimately be innovative and creative as they work through the problem or solutions that they're working on. So.
Looking forward to it. But before we get into it, let's pause for this week's quick tech tip. All right, this week's quick tech tip comes to us inside of Google, and it's actually a twofer this week. So inside of Google Slides and Google Drawings, they have updated the file menu. So when you click File, you're going to see a different menu that is not quite as long. You still have to scroll down just a little bit to get to the print stuff, but most everything is now inside of this window. They have created submenus for Make a Copy, which now you would be able to do your entire slides or selected. They have done email subfolders, a downloaded subfolders. They have added in approvals, which is if you needed feedback, you can now do that. Version history subfolder, and they've added a language inside of the share button, which is our twofer this week, is that inside of the share button now, this is where you would find publish to the web and also our share with others. Another update that Google made with the share with others is that once you put in the person that you want to share with, and then you have that menu to the right that says viewer, commenter, or editor, they've also now added an add expiration date to that as well. Now, you've always been able to add an expiration date, but it was always after the fact, not while you are sharing. And so this is a nice little quick tech tool for us educators and teachers to be able to, again, set a time frame for expiration date, maybe if we're sharing with students or other colleagues inside of the share button inside of Google. So that's this week's quick tech tip. All right, hope you enjoyed this week's quick tech tip. So, what kind of got you thinking about this idea of simplified innovation and where kind of maybe our role fits into this?
So I was at a school a few weeks ago, just observing students. They were in a class working on, the teacher gave them just a simple problem, just a task that really exercised their creative thinking. Their innovative approach to things, and what could have been a rather simple solution for the problem at hand. As I looked around and looked at kids, I saw just a lot of stalling out where they just weren't making any forward progress on coming up with a solution.
Right.
I think, and I say a solution. I don't care how simple it is, and it takes you back to the KISS principle, say keep it super simple is how we say that
Sure.
in school terms. But they're immediately trying to go to the most creative,
right,
out there, innovative solution, and for some they can't get there. You got to start as simple as you can, and I think just innovation. A lot of people think it's wild, crazy solutions to things, and it all starts simple.
Right.
Innovation is a process where you start simple and you say, great, solve the problem, but could I do it better? And you do it better, and you do it better, and you do it better, and you just keep bringing it up to a point where it is really creative, and it is, somebody might say, wow, that is innovative, but innovation is a process.
Sure. And that kind of brings it back to like the design thinking process,
Mm-hmm.
and that it is a process, and it's a cyclical process that you revisit
Mm-hmm.
and you reflect upon. And I think sometimes we forget about the reflecting part. We get to the problem, we give them the ways to think about
Mm-hmm.
it, but then, they come up with a solution, then we move on to the next thing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
When there's more to it than
Mm-hmm.
that. And it's something that we have to teach our kids. And I think, when you look at our work and life skills, which Berkeley County has work and life skills, part of that is the critical thinking and adapting and resilience. So there's a lot of different elements in that work and life skills that fit into letting them work their way through the problem a little bit. And I think as teachers, we've got to stop giving them the answer so quickly.
Absolutely.
And I have to do that, I think, with my own kids sometimes too. It's like, all right, but let them work their way through it, and then talk to them about what they had thought about. So
no, we do it too with teachers sometimes.
Yeah.
Come on to Schoology help chat and let's just show you how to. No,
Right.
Hold on. Let's talk this through.
Yeah, I do that a little bit too much sometimes. Just give me the mouse. I'll take it.
We scaffold learning for kids.
Yep.
They have to. Innovation is a scaffolded process as well. Start as simple as you can. Just get going. Also too, I think kids become disengaged with sometimes when they have to do a project where they have to come up with their own project.
Sure.
They're a choice project.
Right.
They just can't think like, what do I want to do with this? So they're always looking for the perfect, when it's project based, like what's the perfect, project I could pick, or the solution has to be the craziest, coolest solution out there. But we also have to afford them that time to work that process, which is a challenge. It's
very much. Yes.
We don't have a lot of time during a day, during a class, during a school year. But innovation is a process where you do have to fail too.
Sure.
And you do always have to be open to that criticism to say, that's great, you solved it, but we could do better, right? And, if you think about the world around us, if Steve Jobs, I guess, for example, and I'm not even an Apple phone user, but, think about the iPhone, and how much it evolves, it just continues to change. If they were like, wow, this is cool, great, I guess we'll just stop here, then it wouldn't be one of the most popular phones out there.
Right.
It's always some little tiny change that innovate, it's that process of just constant improvement. So I know one of the things we do on our ITO truck is, right behind us when you come in there on the wall is the design thinking process.
Sure.
Where we want to allow kids when they're on that truck and we're doing creative projects to start with, that start at the beginning of the process, which is really just kind of, empathizing with what it is that I'm trying to take on, asking questions, thinking through ideas, creating those things. And then, most importantly, as you kind of come back around to the top of that process is test it and ask questions about what I could do to fix this.
Exactly. And that's one of the things that teachers can take away from this is that the truck can help teach those things, those skills to your kids. That's one of the things we want to do with the ITO truck is bring it out, give them a problem, let them work through solutions, and help them think about the design process and think about the reflection, take in some criticism, critique from us, and move on from it. And so that's one thing I think the teachers can do. What are some other, the other thing I think about when you were talking that teachers can do to help support this, teaching our kids to think simply and innovate simply, and that's Genius Hour time, or or any kind of blogging or geeking out on something. But I was thinking definitely like a Genius Hour thing where they're allowed, a semester. And I know at one of my schools, they have a semester where they're answering a problem and they're coming up with a solution and they're learning how to do research. And, and the teacher was telling me, just the last week that they were looking at it and they asked the kid a couple questions and the kid kind of looked at it and said, this isn't a very good question. I need to rewrite it, which is great that they reflecting upon that I need to do better. Right. I had a solution, not right one. So now let me move it on to something else. And so that's an important thing to think about. So.
I've seen in some schools too, none locally here, but where how do you just instill curiosity and inquiry and open the door for opportunity for kids to look for solutions to problems is have a problem board, like a place where people can come in and go, here's the problem that I had, I was at home today and, this morning I woke up and I spilled my coffee. That's a problem, so solve it,
right.
Just silly things. And then, teachers giving the kids time to say, hey, look at our classroom problem board. Let's just take 5 minutes and let's think through some solutions to it.
Sure.
And just every day, just building on it. And then if, you do have a problem, allow them that 5 minutes to just say for the week, here's a problem. Each day we're going to look at that problem. We're going to continue to build on, solutions for it. It's just brain exercise.
Yep.
Teach math, science, language arts, social. I don't care. it's just good brain exercise to exercise the innovation and creativity muscle.
Yeah. If you have something going on in your
things.
classroom, like you're thinking about, like you're having a problem with organization, or you're having a problem with something, open it up to your students to like, all right, I got this problem. I need a solution.
Yeah.
Let's, as a class, let's figure it out together. And I think those are all really great brain exercises that you can do that's going to build a community in your classroom, build, connect relationships, and allow for a lot of that collaboration and communication and critical thinking to take place. So,
and it doesn't even have to be like things inventive. People think, you're coming up with solutions to problems, and a lot of people think, oh, I got to invent things. It doesn't. No, well, maybe my problem every day is I walk out of the house without my coffee, and I get to halfway to work and I realize I forgot my coffee. So maybe somebody is really good at thinking through processes and coming up with things and solutions like that. Inventing strategies that I could use. So it's a whole bunch of different things when you think about problems and solutions. It's not just physical things, but as far as a life skill goes, and why this is important too is, technology will continue to evolve. Robotics will continue to improve, and in many cases robotics may take the place of a person's job. But one thing a robot does not have, and I think of, what's that Will Smith movie,
iRobot? Yeah,
they have no empathy.
Right.
None. And if you can't empathize, if you have no empathy, then you can't think, if I can't, if somebody can't empathize with me, I do the same thing. I walk out of the house and I forget my stuff. Gosh, I wish I could come up with a way to, something I could do in the morning to not forget that. A robot's not going to invent that.
Right.
That's not a problem for them. They don't empathize, So the human aspect of empathy will always be, and that's where you start the design thinking process, is empathizing.
Yeah.
No robot will ever replace that. No artificial intelligence will.
Not yet, anyways.
Not yet, but, and creativity.
Yeah.
The robot's not going to be creative. There are lots of creative technology solutions we can use, like to create things like Canva and all these other tech tools and 3D printers and all this advanced tech. But someone has to have the creative mindedness to say, I'm going to make this on a laser cutter.
Yeah, that's what I always talk about when I'm working with robotic arms and kids. I'm like, we can program this robotic arm to do this repetitive task over and over again for however many hours I wanted to do it. But it takes the human behind it to program it, to teach it, to maintain it, to fix it, to troubleshoot it. Right. It can. So there's still that needs to be behind it. And something that you were saying that made me fidget with my computer here and find this quote from AJ Giuliani. And it said, our job is not to prepare students for something. Our job is to help students prepare themselves for anything. Yeah. And I think that's exactly what, what we can do with education and what we can do for our students more than anything else is teach them how to think. Yeah. And I think that's going to help them be successful in wherever it is that they're going to go, because like I've sat in a couple of panels, and we were working with a panel, and one of the people from Google said, listen, the jobs that your students are going to be doing haven't probably even been created yet. Yeah. And that's something that's crazy to think about. Now, some of them have, obviously, if they're doing medicine or if they're going to be teaching or things like that. But there's so many jobs out there that, and as the workforce is constantly evolving, we don't know what it's going to look like in however many years, especially if you're teaching elementary kids. That's so many years away. So, but giving them those work and life skills is really what's going to help them prepare for whatever it is that they want to do as they move forward. And not just in work, but also in life, as far as, in other aspects as well. So,
and I don't really see an expiration date on the design thinking process as a process, whereas a lot of other things, because of innovation and technology in an ever changing world, some things they learn today, they're going to have to unlearn it in 5 or 10 years in order to learn whatever is new. But that design thinking process, keep it super simple approach to life when it comes to innovating, that's not going to expire anytime soon. So we just need to give our kids ample opportunities to, exercise that process, work it over, to get better at it.
Do you have any quick things that teachers could do inside the classroom, maybe, that you talked about already, the problem solving board? Is there anything else that you've seen the teachers do?
Tinker time, a lot of drawing and, sketching stuff is, another, you don't have to be artistic.
Sure.
Just sketch up, the teacher can create a a prompt question, sketch up a solution for, it could be even mind mapping, sketch up a mind map, like, hey, I forget my coffee every morning, or I sketch up a mind map that shows a process of maybe what I could, it's a procedure I could go through in the morning to, be a little bit more organized as I leave the house. But sketching, tinkering around, tinker corners, where kids can just kind of play around and have their brain just thinking about.
I think of novel engineering as probably one of the best. And we see it mostly we see it around holidays and, one time a year, like for like the leprechaun traps, right? Or something like that, but you could bring in that novel engineering once a week easily, read a book has a problem that they need to be solved. Let the kids then come up with solutions, and it could be something small, it can be something large, just kind of depends on your time. But anytime you can use any kind of novel engineering, I think that's a really great way to exercise those brains as well inside the classroom.
Another one, as we were kind of getting a little information together for this conversation today, and one of the things I read about too is a good just kind of daily exercise that teachers can do with kids is give them a scenario and say, create an analogy for this, so they have to think of an analogy that relates to, a problem that they're presented with, or a solution, or explain the answer to something but relate it to an analogy,
right?
Because if you think about it, if you can make an analogy to something, it shows a much deeper learning for what it is that you're, outlining.
And you find when kids are problem solving and they are thinking about and they're critically thinking, that's where deeper learning is going to come anyways, and kids get excited about, and we as adults get excited about problem solving. Not everyone, but I know I do. And I know a lot of other people get, when there's a mystery out there that needs to be solved, and then, working through whatever it is to solve that mystery is always kind of a fun thing. And then allowing them to create and have that freedom to go where they want to go. That's where excitement's going to come, deeper learning, and those work and life skills are going to come through.
And I think you and I were talking about it on the way into work this morning. A lot. We take the truck out. We show kids and teachers a whole lot of different technology stuff, and I think it's kind of tough for kids to learn. To be able to learn everything. Sometimes they're not able to connect with. Gosh, I just cannot figure out how to do 3D printing or design, and I think that's okay.
Sure.
We need to expose them to it. We need to show them how they can do it. But at the end of the day, if a kid's just going to struggle with their ability to do 3D thinking, 3D design stuff, totally fine. Because they're probably really good at something that the 3D designer and thinker isn't strong at. But I think what's important in this design process is when kids come up with solutions, that they know that, man, this solution is a thing, and might make sense to start out 3D printing this thing. And I can't do it, but this person knows how to do it. And being resourceful. Communication, collaboration. We talk about this all the time.
The 4 C's. We love the 4 C's. So
creativity. So I think, again, showing, taking a simple approach to being innovative, and that design thinking process, giving plenty of time to work through that, and, connecting technology into that where you can.
And that's where the truck can come in. Like if you're listening to this and you're like, you know what, I want my kids to be able to do this, reach out to your ILCs. Let's get the truck out there. We can come up with just a brain exercise, design thinking workshop, allowing your kids to work through some problems. And you talk about, the struggles. The struggle is important. There's a quote I use all the time is if it doesn't challenge you, it doesn't change you. And that's just something that you've got to, it's important, I think, for kids to understand that, so that when they do hit those roadblocks, and you'll see it in your classroom, you see it in ourselves. Whenever you hit something, sometimes you just, I'm quit. I'm done. I'm not going to do this. But that's not, the best way to think about how they can go through it. And so, letting students be able to work through a struggle and have a hard time is a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because they can pull upon those, they can pull upon that thinking, they can pull upon those skills when something else comes up in the future. And that's what we want our kids to be able to do. So,
very good. Well, I think that's it's kind of about it for today's podcast, right?
Absolutely. So I think big things are definitely, if you're something you're listening to this, get contact with your ILCs, reach out to us. Let's get the truck out there and let our kids start designing and thinking and innovating in a simple way.
Sure.
All right. Thanks. Bye.